Thank you so much for the request to do an edit with me. I frequently get asked how I get certain things to look away and how do I know how to do it. So today what I wanted to do was take you through a step-by-step of literally an edit with me looking at portraits. So the reason why I want to look at portraits in particular is whether you are a crafty person who wants to model their latest creation, or whether you're looking to do some DIY branded photo shoot yourself. The ability to be able to edit portraits is an artistic one. You have to know certain things, there are certain techniques that we need to understand, and there's a certain workflow that I kind of like to stick to. The big thing I will say to you is one of my absolute favourite ways to kind of get, if you're not used to editing a particular thing, is in Lightroom CC, whether you're on iPad or desktop, you have the ability to do what's called remixing. Because the hardest thing that people say to me is going, well, I don't know how to edit the styles and I don't know what style I want and I don't have a great photo of myself because I haven't started that way. And it's like, that's cool, that's okay. Inspiration is there for a reason. So remixes is the ability to go in and edit and look at other people's edit of the same image. And that's where I thought we'd start today. So I've picked out a particular image that I think is it's a nice shot. It's got a good composition. There are a couple of things I would necessarily tweak, but that's just my personal preference. I see why they've done what they've done, but it's not to my style. So I thought we'd talk through those and show you literally how I do some of the most basic things. Here we have this particular picture, and one of the things it shows you is literally step by step how that edit has occurred. Okay, and what I thought we'd do is I thought we would do a remix of it. So it's a reasonable photo, it's not bad. As you can see, we've got a couple of people's different interpretations, so you can kind of see what other people have done, but I'm not particularly a fan of some of it, so we're going to remix this. Okay, so literally we're going to start from scratch. We've got a nice blank tablet and I'm going to go through you step by step. So my first thing that I kind of think of when I do this is you need to be thinking about your aspect ratio, straightening up any issues that you've got there and cropping it down to what you want. Now, cropping is really, really important when we talk about portraits because you absolutely cannot and should not crop people off at the wrong point. So wrong points are things like elbows, halfway through it looks wrong, it's weird. Try basically, if a body bends at that moment, so like your elbow, shoulders, your wrist, anything like that, don't crop there. Obviously quite important as well that we don't do things like chopping off her head because she'll look wrong and things like that. So we need to be thinking about this. So aspect ratio is quite literally where you're going to put it. Simplest way to put it, if you're going to put it on somewhere like Instagram and things like that, you're going to one by one. Some of the alternative ones are becoming quite popular, so obviously doing portrait because we consume everything in mobile, so that's just something just to bear in mind, and obviously you can enter a custom one if you want to. So I think we're going to go 9 by 16 and we're going to do it as if like we're doing it like a story kind of situation. So we're obviously just going to make this a bit bigger because we do actually want it in the image. And I think that's what they've done here, okay, when I look at it, because there's a bit too much space at the top for my liking in the original. Yes, it's nice to be able to see that background, but I'm not loving the amount of gap above her head. So we're gonna chop that. We're gonna chop that off basically, and we're gonna keep it what's it. So we like this. We like the fact that she's looking this way. So I'm actually gonna bring her more towards the rule of thirds. And if you don't know your compositions, you need to go and learn those. You should know this by now. Okay, so next. Oh, we didn't check that it was straight. I think it's straight. I think we can put auto on. Yeah, it was marginally off by 0.6. It's nothing. So it wasn't bad. So that's an important thing to do. So now we're going to come into this. So the second thing I like to do is I like to make sure that I've exposed the skin correctly. Skin can be an absolute pain if it's not exposed correctly. So my first point of call is I look at the whole image and I ignore everything but the skin, okay? And this is really, really important when you're working with people of different skins, of like different colours of skin. First thing I'm going to think about is, and everyone goes, okay, so we're talking about exposure, we're going to do the exposure slider. Nope, we're not going to touch it, okay? We're going to be using that exposure by doing the highlights, shadows, blacks and whites, okay? Now, if you want to push it to the extreme, one of the really good trips that you can do is you can actually press shift and you can do autos on a lot of these, and we like doing that because it takes it to the absolute max of each one, and then we can tone these things down. And that's quite important, okay? And so I'm not saying that that's where we're keeping it. I'm saying that's where it's acceptable to go. That's the absolute max before we start to get clipping, okay? And you don't want clipping. How white is her white top? You know, these are the things we've got to think about. And by everything else, now if you want to know the impact of the edit that we've just done, we've got a toggle down here, and it basically shows you quite literally a before and after. Now, if you look, her top looks better before. So what is it that we've done that has made that come down? Now, I actually think that's the whites, because the whites has come down quite dramatically. So if we literally just slide that back up, and can you see how it brings the overall exposure up? Now I'm going to take it to the extreme so you can see. And then we're looking at things in a point of view. So it said we could go all the way down here. That was the auto. Now it could be because it's picking up some highlights, but the highlights didn't move that far. And obviously you can do this on a curve if you want to. I just like my sliders, if I'm really honest. So I actually think that I'm going to put a bit more white on it rather than it go down, because I like this white here. I think it's because it's peaking because of over here, which is fine. Okay, so we've got an overall what's it. Do we like the complex, and can we see the person? That's the real big thing. And if we can and we're happy, that's fine, we can move on. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the overall skin and see if there's any blemishes, any retouching that needs to do we need to smooth anything out. Now, one of the easiest ways to do this is to actually mask brush. Thank you. We're going to have a quick look. And she's got a spot here, and this spot's annoying me. Okay, I think she'd look better without this spot. We're going to see if we can tweak it. Now, obviously, the quality of it doesn't look great, but we are zoomed in quite a bit, so let's be realistic. So there are different ways we can obviously smooth this out. One of the easiest ways to do this is we're going to heal. She's going to come down here, and we're just going to go like that, and it's going to take that, and her spot is gone. So blemishes, the easiest way to do it is to actually heal it. But what I would say is don't do a massive heal, do lots of little bits, and it'll take it from the best part, okay? She's got another one here that I'm just going to get rid of. Because I think she'll look better without it. Do I think you need to go through and make everything perfect? No, because we shouldn't be airbrushed, okay? I'm not airbrushed. I'm definitely not there, okay? And you can see every freckle and all the rest of it, and I would never take that away from somebody. But there are a couple of things that we can just kind of tweak and sort out, okay? So that's kind of important to be able to do that. The other thing that we can do is we can take a brush, new brush, we can feather it. We want quite a low flow. We do have smooth skin. There's smooth skin. So you don't even have to worry about where to go to. You can literally just come in here. I prefer to do this with a pencil, which I don't have set up at the moment. And you can quite literally just smooth out any of these bits. If you think, oh, that bit needs a bit, that bit needs a bit, we'll smooth that a bit. And again, you can do it in real small bits. Where we've touched those up, so that's those very nice little gentle red bits. Obviously if I go over that again, you're going to keep getting it, and you can pick and choose where you want to do it, but basically we're just looking to smooth out certain parts. So when it comes to doing the teeth, the easiest way of editing this is localize brush, get yourself down to whiten teeth, and then you're basically going to draw across the teeth. You can obviously do this smaller and neater if you're going to do like a really professional job of it, but if you just want to get the general gist, because you're obviously going to zoom out and then you're going to put it on something like social media, it's really, really simple. You can come in here, and then basically the general gist that they do is they bring down the saturation on your teeth to make any discoloration there come down to basically that white or tone. The other thing you can do if you want to combat this is they've added a very small amount of exposure just to brighten that a little bit, just to make it look a bit better. And when we have a look at the difference, right, then we're going to remove that. Can you see the difference now? Okay, and then we can bring that intensity down. So you really can lay it on a bit thick at first, and then you can bring it down. Now when we do a before and after, Can you see the difference? So the intensity in which you put that original mask on, the intensity of the preset, as in the flow of it, and obviously we can then make those minor adjustments between it. So there is a bit of fine tuning that you need to do, but I do find doing this with a pencil, especially on the iPad, a lot easier because it's just like colouring in than trying to use it with a mouse. So that is how you whiten teeth, and it's a very similar situation for the eyes. There's a two-step process. So again, we recommend a new local brush. We come in with the preset of enhance eyes. Now when we do enhance eyes, we're looking at the iris and the colour. Okay, so we are going to tweak our size brush down a little bit, and we're basically just going to colour in that eye, and we're going to colour in that eye. And again, edits are supposed to be subtle. Okay, the whole before and after, you'll be able to see it makes each individual small edit makes a big impact once it's put all together. Okay, one on its own you won't notice too much, but after you'll see a significant impact on this. Okay, so basically when we sharpen and brighten those eyes, this is also how people start to put like extra colour in their eye or change the colour of their eyes. I don't particularly want to do that because the irises aren't particularly prominent in this photo, and actually I think the more important thing is just to lighten up that background. Now I cheat, I'm not going to lie to you. When you kind of got this grey white of the eye, I find whitening teeth preset just as good for doing the iris than as I do the white of the eye as doing your teeth, and it doesn't make a great deal of difference. Okay, so we can apply that as well. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to do the brush, and again we're going to do a very similar setup, but this time we're going to be on whitened teeth, and we're going to just rub in very gently, one there and one there. Okay, it's very subtle. I tend to not intensify this too much, because if you intensify it too much, you're going to end up giving her a really spooky look, and it's just going to make her look particularly odd. It is just about taking the edge off and drawing that attention to the lightest part of the photo. So we're not going to go too heavy-handed with this. We just want to give it that little bit of making sure that it's a lighter tone. Right, so we've done a little bit of skin retouching. We've taken away those two spots. We've whitened up the teeth. We've enhanced the eyes. Now it's really down to, we can look at things like adding a little bit of makeup. So if you've had one of those days where you've got a really good shot of you and you gutted that you didn't wear lipstick that day or something, this is where you can actually start playing with things again. So, you know, if you wanted to add a particular makeup look, we could add yet another brush. I know, it's where it all gets fun, and we could literally just colour in her lip. And once you get into the flow of this, you kind of get used to how it's done. And then what we can do is we can add a little bit of colour to it. And again, there's different ways that we can kind of do this. But the general rule of thumb that I prefer to do on this, yeah, you can see it. There's like your orangey. There, she's got a bruise. But you want to sit it probably about there. And again, you can add that little bit of colour. Yes, it's subtle, and yes, it's simple, but especially when you're on the go and you just want to do a quick little touch up, it can make a difference to that thing. Now, obviously, we can, and this is a controversial one for me as a photographer. Some people obviously feel that and I'm the first person to say this, I feel that my face is quite round and it can obviously get a little bit touchy for me. One of the things that we can do when we look at this, especially if you're looking at somebody who is very self-conscious of themselves, it's a conversation that you can have with yourself, in essence, is you can actually adjust the aspect of it. When I say adjust the aspect of it, what happens is we can quite literally make somebody go that way, but more importantly, we can make people go that way. And just taking -10 can just elongate somebody. Now, do I think we need to do this? No, I think everybody's beautiful just as you are. However, some people prefer when they look a little bit more tall and thin, and I want to show you that it can be done in a really nice little way, and it just takes the edge off certain aspects of yourself without it being two things. I know a lot of clients have said they feel particularly good when they look at this, and it's one of those little things of everybody's beautiful just as you are, but for those who just want to feel that little bit like you're sucking everything in, aspect's the way to do it. So I don't think you have to do it, but it's a choice out there if you are conscious of those things, okay? I am the first person to slim down my face because I have a particularly round and chubby cheeked moment, okay? And especially when you're laughing and those things are more accentuated, it just helps me feel that just a little bit better. I think I just look that little bit better. But don't feel you have to do this, okay? Because everybody's beautiful just the way I am. Just because she's absolutely stunning as she is, I'm going to put her back to where she was, because she's beautiful. Now that we've done the basic fundamentals, that's what I call a basic portrait edit. You have done the bare bones. You have sorted out any issues. You've made sure that the skin is correctly exposed. You've brightened up those eyes. You've brightened up those lips, and you've dealt with any makeup issues that you wanted to deal with. Okay, that is the bare bones. This is the basics. Okay, then it's about adding style. Okay, then it's adding about your style and your technique and different ways you want it. Now, again, it's interesting to see how other people do these things and what kind of style and feels they go to. But basically, you're looking at some kind of lighting or colour grading effects. So what I'd be interested to see with this one is, because it's quite warm, could we bring up that warmth and build in those tones, okay? And again, if you don't know how to do the colour mixer, it's all about basically enhancing a particular colour within it. Now, you have to be really, really careful with certain colours, especially when they come into your skin tone, because if you notice, if I come down to yellow, because she's very pale, so she'll be with the yellows and the oranges and the reds. If I just start yanking these in a certain direction, you'll start to notice that her skin colour changes, especially on her face, okay? And we don't want that. So I'm just going to reset these back to where they belong, okay? I wonder if she's got a bit more pink in there, actually. Yeah, look. So you can't just whack that up, because look what happens, okay? So when we look at the background and the things that we want to do, again, this is where we can protect her by doing an invert mask and change the stuff on the background, and only the background, and just protect her as she is. But clearly we're not going to just start whacking these things. We can do some mid-tones and dark tones and all the rest of it, and this is where things get very interesting if you want to go down the colour grading. So we can have a look at the mid-tones on this, and we can build in a little bit more warmth, and it gives you a very distinct style without scare. And again, we're talking minimal. We're adding 10. We're not going out here, because that happens. We're talking really, really subtle, okay? We're talking minor little bits, okay? And especially when we look at the shadows. So the shadows are the more the greens and the blacks in this one. So you might want to go for a slightly... And again, you can kind of pick, you kind of get a feel. So do you want to bring the greens out and make them pop a bit more? Or do you want to actually tone those down and make it more of the orangey? This is where you can get a kind of like, you can start having some serious fun with this stuff. So, and you kind of have to go round a bit. I liked it round here. I'm just wondering, there we go. Just put a bit more blend on it. That's fine. okay? And that's where you can kind of start playing with some of the colours and putting in your personal branded style and things like that. Finally, you need to make sure that you sharpen it for where it's going to go. Okay, now some people choose to do that in brand, and if you've never done this one before, if you press Alt, it will give you a slightly different look, and it allows you to kind of see to the level we're talking about. Don't tend to put too much on, if I'm brutally honest. And you can do masking. Again, I'm holding down Alt, and it will only sharpen what's in white. This is one of my favourite tricks, so that you don't go over sharpening skin and things like that. It allows you to really just pinpoint those edges and not get too much. And it's a way of playing with the style and figuring out what you like by seeing what other people are doing and then seeing what you could do. So obviously I've put that one in, and you can see exactly how I edited it by going through, and you've got all these different colour mixes. So sometimes it's about having a play, an experiment to see what you like before you go into some of the others. So I made it much more subtle actually, because they've gone for almost an orange skin tone, and I've brought those down and changed obviously the composition of it, which is really, really nice to be able to kind of see. If you found any of this helpful, please like this because it really does help me, and drop in the comments if you'd like me to do a different style of photo. So whether you want me to do a bit of product photography, landscape photography, whether you want me to do food photography. These are the kind of things I want to see whether editing along with somebody would be helpful. So I'll drop, if I can, a link to this one, so if you want to have a play with it. And I would love to see any of your remixes of how you would do this edit and your style. Okay, I might do another one to edit in a different particular style, because it's been a while since I've sat and done these. So and I'll see you next time.